Welcome to Age Better Resources, where we explore options, strategies, and solutions to better navigate some of the challenges and changes that can come with aging in later life. I'm Kathy Clinton, your host, and I am very excited to welcome Connie Ryan today. Connie is the owner of Journey Care Coordination, and today we're going to learn more about what Connie does, what a care manager does, and how she might be able to help. Connie, welcome.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to talk to you and the community about care management and care advocacy. So my company is Journey Care Coordinating, and we launched in March of 2021. And my goal is to change the way we age in our community. And by doing that, or to do that, I work with families who are currently taking care of a loved one, typically an older senior. And we work together to put a plan in place with resources and local experts so that you're not trying to navigate this situation relying on, understaffed medical service providers and things like that. So the goal is to empower these families who are doing so much already and to help the respect and dignity of these seniors that are also still trying to live their lives too. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do.
Perfect. Yeah. So can you tell me about what inspired you to get into this?
Yes. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. And so one of the last times I ever saw her was in a locked memory ward in Wisconsin. And it was a very interesting and mind-blowing experience. And then fast forward about a decade, and I ended up working for a home care company in Alexandria, Virginia. And I had no idea what I had started, where I was, what I was doing. And I had a caregiver help me put a case together so that we could help this family in a last minute situation. So I have been taught by professional African caregivers and over 200 family members as to how to actually do this job. And that's where this came from, was during 2020 and all these other experiences is working with these families. There wasn't really somebody to just go to and say, how do we handle this entire situation? There's so many questions and moving variables. And I realized that that doesn't really exist in our world. And we don't plan for things that we need to in regards to aging and even death. So that's how this all came to be. I was very inspired by my professional caregivers and my families that I was helping, and really trying to help provide a better solution for sustainability, safety, medical, all the things. It definitely takes a village.
Absolutely. Yeah, having worked for many years in senior living and senior care, and then also independently, I saw so many people that really were overwhelmed, stressed, didn't know where to turn, or were completely alone and didn't have somebody to help them, which is really probably the hardest situation. Yeah. So who typically would reach out to you? Is it typically a family member, a friend?
Yep. It's right now, I definitely hear more from the daughters who are working full time. They've got kids that they're trying to raise and take care of and keep track of. And now mom has a new diagnosis, or something has changed, or there's been a fall. And so now we need help and we need a plan. And we're not really getting help or plan. A lot of families out there do not feel heard, they do not feel validated, and they don't know who to turn to when it comes to these questions. So,
yeah. Yeah. So are you finding people will reach out sometimes in a more proactive way, or is it typically still very reactive?
It is 100% reactive. And in all the years I've been working with families and caregivers since 2016, I've had 2 clients over the 300 that I've worked with who were actually proactive, where they came to me and said, we don't want to end up in this horror story over here. We
Mm.
want mom to be protected. We want to respect her dignity. We want her to be independent as long as possible. However, they also have the money and the financial means to make that happen. So there is a very interesting line there. And that's where I would strongly, strongly encourage everyone to get your ducks in a row and have a plan before something happens, because it's not a matter of if something will happen, it's when it happens.
Mm.
And that's part of what we're doing here with proactive living and journey care coordinating, is really empowering those family members through education and events to be more proactive.
Yeah. Are you finding that if people become more aware of some of the steps they could be taking to help meet their ultimate goals of living independently and thriving as much as possible, do you find that they will start to take steps? Or is there still kind of a wait until we need it mentality? Yeah.
There's still kind of that wait until we need it moment, but we're all human, and just like, yes, it's May and swimsuit season's coming up, and I'm gonna start my workout for my summer body with like a week. So we all need to reprogram this piece of who we are and how we operate in this world and be a little bit more proactive. You hear a lot of stories of things changing with Medicare, Medicaid, different benefits, living benefits, all these different buzzwords. But when it comes to aging and when it comes to the industry, cash is still king. So if you really want a very specific lifestyle as you continue to age and not work and maybe travel and things like that, you need to plan ahead. And that is something I work with these clients and these family members, is what do we need to handle right this second? And then how can we plan ahead so that mom and dad continue to thrive, not survive? We're not reacting every time something happens. And then you can actually see longevity and vibrancy as they age, because we actually have goals and motivation now to move past some of that pain and anguish and just anxiousness.
Yeah. Yeah. That uncertainty can be really stressful for people. And just thinking about the comment you made about a couple of clients that had resources to do some forward planning. Um, it just occurred to me that if people have very limited resources, that future planning probably becomes even more important because their options will be more limited. Are you seeing that?
Yes. And I think that, well, not think, it is crucial that we talk to the right experts in this area, because even though you may have what you think limited funds, you might have assets, you might have something else that you qualify for. And that's the second layer with journey care coordinating is, yes, my nurse and I help you with a plan, and then I put you in touch with these resources. So do we need to not spend down and protect your assets for Medicaid? Do you want to age at home, or do you want to go into a facility? We need to address the safety and medical sides and in everything. And so it's overall a shift I'm seeing in society in general. Life is just more expensive. And so we need to be more mindful and plan accordingly. But Kathy, we don't make goals past high school and college. You have
Right.
your car, you have your house, and you have your job, and you're like, okay, now what?
Now what? Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's a huge problem, in my opinion, which is where
Yeah.
that mission for changing the way we age comes into play,
Right.
because we
Mhm.
need goals, we need purpose, we need to get back to community. And this is how we change the way we age, is lifting everybody up together.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Which actually raises another question. When you're working with individuals in their home, are you seeing a lot of isolation in their home? Because that is one thing, I've worked in senior living, and that sense of community in my mind was probably the biggest benefit to moving into a community. Yes, meals are prepared, housekeeping, medication management, but that connection with people, making new friends, developing some relationships, is huge. So for people in their home alone, are you finding ways to encourage that?
Mhm. Very much so. I think that was one of the biggest lessons learned from 2020 is how crucial at any age it is for us to have that person interaction. In fact, when we worked with our professional caregivers, we would instruct them to make sure at least once a day you're washing your hands, you're taking your gloves off, and you are holding your client's hand or rubbing their shoulder, something, because that could be the only point of contact and touch that that person gets for a
Mhm.
whole week. And the way our brains are wired as the humans that we are, we need that eye contact. We need that personal space interruption and to be touched. And so with that, Journey Care does put on different events every month throughout town, and some of them we're slowly bringing a little virtual, so everybody can participate regardless of where you're at. But that was the biggest thing when I launched Journey Care in 2021, was that we have got to get these seniors back out of the house.
Mhm.
When you isolate yourself at any age, you create this little bubble in your brain, and so anything not in the bubble is a threat, and you're going to get aggressive, you're going to get paranoid, and you're not going to want to go out anymore, and you're going to only feel safe at home. And so we've worked really hard with the senior center. Sarah Tucker over there is incredible running those programs, and just other venues around town to provide these events for our seniors and family members. Right now, we're working on the summer concert series with Sandy Goliath's Mountain Music Therapy Services, where we go to different facilities around town on the fourth Thursday of the month, and we provide a little concert for them. We have different musical guests come and join us, and it's just fun.
Mhm.
And so little things like that to help encourage people to get out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, one of the things when I joined a home care company, that was the thing that became most obvious to me was when in senior living communities, we'd have all these gatherings. And, when one of the things I brought thought to the home care agency was how could we get our clients maybe connected with each other? Are there people that are able to go out? Could a caregiver, care provider take them to events? And then, unfortunately, some of the pandemic concerns were elevated again. And so that didn't work at the time, but I agree. I think it's so important. And I know there are ways that we can do it better. So I personally really appreciate all the effort you've put into providing some of those events, which is
Yeah.
really amazing. Yes. Yeah. So Connie, um, is there anything that you would like to share with people in terms of what they should look for? Like what might be some warning signs or red flags that, oh, I visited my mom, I visited my father or my parents, and here's some things to look for that could let you know that, oh, maybe things are more challenging than you realize.
Yes. It's I have lots of advice on that, because our loved ones, our moms and our dads and our older seniors, they will fake it as hard as possible so that that loved one and that caregiver who knows everything doesn't know. And so you have to be more mindful.
Mhm.
I would strongly recommend trust your gut. If something feels off and you're just like, mom's kind of a little different,
Mhm.
it's never too early to start asking, what do we need to plan for? What do we need to look for? Do we need to run some tests and things like that?
Mhm.
Um, Make sure that you are keeping an eye on safety and medical needs first. So if you have any concern watching for like trip hazards, rugs, my mother-in-law always has plants everywhere. So you have to pick up the plants off the floor and
Mhm.
help with some of that thing. If you are worried about driving, and you don't know how to bring that topic up, let them take you for a ride to somewhere where they're familiar, and just keep your eyes out. You'll see the difference with that muscle memory for stop signs and lights and things like that. And it's perfectly okay to offer to drive back home so they don't have to drive.
Yeah.
when you want to start having conversations or you feel something's off and you're not really sure, always keep safety and medical needs top of mind, because that's the number one thing you want to advocate for. Is somebody safe at home alone? Do they have meals, things of that nature? Medically, are they managing their meds properly? Do you need a pill box? Little things like that to start looking for. So those should be your first two categories where you're looking for red flags. And then at any point in time you have those red flags, you can call the doctor and say, I am so and so's son, daughter, loved one. These are concerns I have. And then you can start utilizing that current team to help you advocate for your senior. If you don't get the response that you want from that doctor, you may want to look for a different doctor or give me a call and let's actually take a look at that full picture. I do offer free assessments and things like that in that interest of we need a full picture of what we're working with, because I might not be the right fit for you. But that doesn't mean there aren't answers out there. So you are not alone in any of this anymore, and we can help and put a plan together.
Yeah.
Another thing with red flags is the forgetfulness, calendar mistakes, little things that we just laugh off as like, oh, blah, 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 we're just getting old.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
A lot of times that forgetful piece will really start to impact finances. And that will be your first indicator when all of a sudden mom gets an eviction notice or there's a bill that's been shut off or something like that. So
Right.
it's all little red flags.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I've always observed is if somebody has physical challenges, those are often easier to see and easier to address. And like if someone has a broken leg, nobody is trying to hide that. When there's cognitive change, first of all, there could be a lack of awareness of that cognitive change, but also more of a defensiveness and a desire to really hide that. And that's, to me, adds a whole other element of challenge. I'm sure that's something that you see with many of your clients.
A lot of times the first thing I hear is my brain just isn't working right. Or I don't know, I'm just really confused. So if you do have a loved one where you're starting to hear or see little things like that, the best thing you can do is tell them it's okay. You're okay. Let's just take a deep breath and let them breathe it out and see if it comes to them. About a 90-second delay is common. Give them that long. It feels like forever, but they need that moment to kind of regroup and pay attention to that breathing. If they're starting to get anxious because they can't remember, you'll hear it and they'll start breathing weird. And you just have to breathe down and reassure everybody we're safe, nothing's wrong, and we're okay. And they'll get it back. So it's just operating on a different level too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something that I'd love to have you come back and we can maybe talk further about is recommendations on how to approach things with whether it's your spouse or, a parent or any loved one who you're observing challenges. What I've also often seen is the way people that care about them approach them puts up walls and gets them more entrenched and more defensive, and that it's so important to approach it from the perspective of honoring them. It is their life. They do have agency over their decisions, and just maybe asking questions. I noticed this, what are you noticing about that? Those sorts of things. I think that's a whole conversation that could be really beneficial for people to avoid that friction and let them know you're there to help them and you're partnering together and not to make them do something that they fear and don't want to do. People don't want to lose their independence. So.
Yeah. Yes. Giving time, learning to redirect, learning to approach things. Like it's easier to say, how are we feeling about something versus what do we think about something? And so it's just these little adjustments that we all in this industry and this phase of life have to make
Mhm.
And, bring you hear about them, talking to them in their reality. And
Mhm.
that's something I think a lot of family members struggle with because we're so used to mom and dad being in a certain way. And
Mhm.
now you have to basically treat them a very different way.
Yeah,
My Africans used to say, once a man, twice a baby. And it is so true how we age. And then all of a sudden, now we need the same kind of assistance that our babies
right,
need.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
it is not condescending, it is not belittling, it is not hurtful to be mindful that that senior now needs a different level of care. And
Mhm.
sometimes we take it too seriously as like, oh, that's juvenile or that's discounting.
Mhm.
No, their brain is just operating in a different way. I have a client who was a very, prominent lawyer in New York in the 60s, New York City. And her favorite book right now is Dr. Seuss.
Oh,
So we all change as we get older. So it's good to play with those changes too.
yeah. Embrace them, honor them. And yeah, I love that. Good. Well, Connie, how do people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about your services?
Yes. So you can find me online. My website is journeycarecoordinating.com. You can also call me at 520-647-6768. And I do have a couple videos for the Proactive Living series and the Smile and Variety Hour season 1. And that's on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com and look for the Proactive Living Online, then that my face will pop right up. And we've got lots of videos there, and we will be continuing to add more videos. So as our seasons change this winter, we'll have a whole library of entertainment for
Wonderful.
everyone.
Yeah, and I can include those notes. So, well, thank you so much for taking time. And this has been really helpful. And hopefully, people will better understand what somebody like you can do, because I know people have no idea what the resources are that are out there.
Yes.
And anybody who contacts me through Age Better Resources through my site, I'm more than happy to connect you with Connie as well, if you didn't get that information down. So
Yeah.
thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Kathy. This is wonderful.